At first glance, this is a movie about wrestling. At second glance, it's a movie about patriarchy in India. But what if you look a little deeper? A father was given a spark. That spark was meant to lead him to bring glory to his country. But he never received support from that same country. He didn't receive support from his family either. All of that overwhelmed him, so he just gave up. He replaced his passion with a stable job and an ordinary life. But it's very clear that he wasn't happy, because when it comes to calling, you don't just forget about it. He hoped that maybe his son would achieve what he couldn't, but his first child was a girl. So was another, then another, and another. With each birth, a new hope was born, only to be followed by disappointment, as if life itself was trying to tell him that the spark he had been given was purposeless. But a spark never truly dies. God doesn't give it to you for nothing. Sometimes it just doesn't unfold in an obvious way. If the father was selfish, if he wanted to force his dreams onto his daughters, he would have done it from the very beginning. But he didn't. He only started training them when he recognized something in them, the same spark he once had. He had already let it die once. He didn't want to let it happen again. He had his doubts. So did his wife. That's why he set a limit. 1 year. The girls would try for 1 year, and if it didn't work out, he would let it go. But for that 1 year, they had no choice. And honestly, I think that was healthy. Forcing a child into something for a year is not cruelty. Some things require time before you can even tell whether they are right for you. Children don't understand that. They think in the short term. You can tell a child 1,000,000 times that brushing their teeth will protect them in the future, that they only have one set of teeth. They still won't care. You can explain over and over again that they should fix their posture or they will deal with back problems for the rest of their lives. They'll still slouch. But the moment a little girl uses conditioner for the first time and sees how soft and shiny her hair becomes, she's amazed, because the result is immediate. That's how children think. They respond to what they can see right now. There is also another side to this. Pressure from a parent can push you far, but it won't take you all the way if it's your only motivation. Someone might argue that the desire for parental approval is incredibly powerful. And it is, but there is a difference. Obsession burns you out. Love gives you wings. To reach that level, you need a real talent and a deep love for what you do. When I watched this film, I also couldn't stop thinking about what life used to look like for girls in India. Many of them were married off very young. I myself once met a woman who got married at 11. She was lucky in a way. Her husband adored her, and she adored him. They were both very young when they married. Today, she's one of the most joyful people I've ever met. But it's easy to imagine that not every girl was that lucky. For a very long time, women had no real voice. They were expected to stay at home and raise children. That was it. So, when I watched the girls protesting against their training, I found myself thinking, what else meaningful would you have done with your lives? Maybe you would have had more fun for a while, but your father is giving you a chance to do something truly extraordinary, something bigger than just yourselves. He knows what it costs to lose that spark, because he lived through it. The scene with the young bride after her wedding expresses this perfectly. And then there is a way the girls made to look, the short hair, the strange clothes. In their village, that was unthinkable. Even today, in many places in India, women wearing shorts is still frowned upon. But honestly, if I had a choice, I'd rather be seen as the village idiot than become a clone of everybody else. It was a wonderful moment when the father, unable to get 2 months off from work, quit his job. He let go of something he hadn't been able to let go of for himself before. He didn't make the same mistake a second time. Then comes the conflict with the coach. Once again, the father was right. Not because he stubbornly stuck to his techniques, but simply because he knew his daughters very well. When Gita rebelled against him and they faced off in a duel, she defeated him. But not thanks to the new technique she had learned. She defeated him because, through his challenge, her father had reawakened her true offensive nature. So, in reality, she beat him using his own technique and didn't even realize it. For a moment, she had her doubts and wondered if maybe she didn't really want all that discipline and sacrifice. After all, she wasn't doing anything wrong. She let her hair grow, ate good food, painted her nails. All of that was actually good, but the problem was that it wasn't for her. It wasn't hers. Just like a hermit who cuts himself off from the world to connect with God in solitude. Not everyone is called to be a parent or to marry. Other female wrestlers seemed to allow themselves more freedom. But maybe that's exactly why the Indian women team was so weak. You don't win gold medals on the side, with minimal effort, as a hobby. Maybe Geeta was someone special, even among all those female wrestlers who qualified for international competitions. Maybe championship was written in her soul. When she realized this, she made the right choice. She chose to listen to her father. Babita, on the other hand, never doubted him. One of the most captivating moments for me was during the final match, when the coach told Geeta to fight defensively, while her father shouted from the stands to attack. It reminded me of the voice of intuition that resonates within us and sometimes calls us through a dark tunnel with no light, telling us to trust that the light will eventually shine through. That voice sometimes says things that defy logic and experience, but in the end, it always turns out to be right, just like that shout. Similar thing happened in the coin toss scene. When it landed against Geeta, the commentator said that maybe even fate didn't want her to win. It was the opposite. Destiny intended for Geeta's victory to be all the greater. Sometimes when God wants to work through us, he makes success seem downright impossible. God does this to reveal his own glory, to make it clear that a person could not have accomplished that thing on their own. There is one more moment that deeply connects to this idea. During the final match, Geeta remembered the time she jumped into the river because her father told her to, and what he said to her then. To me, that feels very similar to how God works. He always tries to prepare a soul in advance, so that when the moment comes and he seems totally absent, the soul still is able to stand and fight. The character of Mahavir in general reminded me of God. Besides the other things I already mentioned, he reminded me of God because, above all, he loved his children. For about the entire story, his love is quietly present. He reminded me of God also because, like God, he knew his children better than they knew themselves. And like God, he trained them for something greater than they could have imagined. Eventually, he gave Geeta and Babita exactly what they wanted, and more, just not in the way they expected. They wanted acceptance, and in the end, they received more recognition than anyone else. Their short hair didn't stop that from happening. Their mother worried about who would marry them, but the father said, "I will make them so capable that men will not choose them. They will choose men." And that's exactly what happened. He gave them a life that was meaningful, a life that was aligned with who they truly were. But maybe the most beautiful part is this. The spark he helped ignite didn't stop with his daughters. It spread. It inspired thousands of girls in India to take up wrestling. And it even reached someone like me, from a completely different part of the world. It will reach anyone who truly listens to this story. And finally, I want to say this. If you don't like this movie, that's completely okay. Maybe the ending feels too Hollywood-like. Maybe the conflict between the coach and the father feels artificial. Maybe you're just not interested in wrestling or sports films at all. That's all valid. But if you watch this movie and see the father as nothing more than a cold, controlling tyrant, then maybe it's worth asking yourself one question. Do you have a spark in your life? Have you ever really tried to find it? Or do you imagine yourself as a child who is forced to do something that doesn't interest them at all because that spark isn't there, rather than as a child who simply hasn't yet seen what the spark is for? Or maybe the spark is there, but you're not feeding it. Maybe you wanted to learn a language but gave up on it quickly. Maybe you wanted to complete that course or those studies, but you barely started and didn't finish. Or maybe you've been stuck in a job you hate for years, but somehow you always lack the motivation to change it. And Mahavir character, with his strict discipline, simply reminds you of this, too loudly.